Chess Game by Dave Phillips. Not glamorous, not shabby or falling apart, but stable, solid, maybe average. That's what I think of when I think of where I grew up. We lived in a well-kept blue-collar area of town. My father worked in one of the factories on the east side of town where he'd worked his way up to a lower-level management position. His income allowed my mother to stay home as long as we didn't get too extravagant in our lifestyle. They worked hard, provided well enough for us, and saved a little to help us kids through college. Of course, a good work ethic was instilled into us with the expectation that we would make the most of what was available. So we all earned some kind of scholarship, which really did help. We were kind of religious, but not really very faithful in church attendance. We did like to help out the poor whenever we could, especially at Christmas time. My mom too, but especially my dad, was always a strong Democrat and always active in local politics. My dad always said the Democrats were for the working man, and he'd seen some abuses of big business in our area. It wasn't anything we questioned. I always loved talking, arguing, debating, as did the rest of my family. So it was kind of natural for me to pursue political science and journalism in college. When I finished, I came back home, married my high school sweetheart, and went to work for our local newspaper. I also did some part-time reporting for a local radio station. Of course, whenever I got a chance, I got into a debate, pushed my view of things, supported the unions, stood up for the downtrodden, raised money for charity, and got involved in local politics. It wasn't too long and the party was encouraging me to run for state representative, and I guess the rest is history. Now I've been a member of Congress for more years than I want to think about. I was pretty radical as a young politician and sometimes nearly hated the other side, wondering why in the world they couldn't see it our way, which obviously was the right way, and many times even believing that some of them must have been evil to take the positions that they took. With age, I've mellowed out a good bit. Oh, I still believe in the basic principles I started with and still have very stimulating dialogue with the other side, but don't always agree with everything that's said or done in my party. In fact, I'm sometimes embarrassed. And I've come to realize that a person can have pure motives while still not seeing things the way they ought to be seen. Not that I'm biased or anything like that. Being in Congress for as long as I have, you see a lot of things, and you go through a lot of things. Idealist that I was very incensed by the moral failings of some of my colleagues. Sometimes lack of integrity, sometimes given to too much alcohol, sometimes flirtation with staff members, and of course it goes deeper than that. I considered myself a man of integrity. Somewhere along the line, I'm not even sure exactly where, I started getting a little more careless and a little more careless. Maybe had something to do with the first time I compromised something that I thought was important to me in order to pacify a colleague and get him to support me on another issue. Maybe it was just seeing different levels of compromise and deception all around me. Maybe it was just the effect that power can have on an individual. For whatever reason, I saw myself start slipping. At first it was just in little things. Then I remember realizing that I was doing some of the things that I used to be incensed about and thinking, wow, I need to bring myself back in check. But the hours were long, sometimes the work strenuous, the late night sessions stretching me to the limit, mentally and physically. I'd tell myself I needed that extra drink or two to help me relax or else I was going to wind up dead. In fact, I'd tell myself I needed it to help fall asleep. The late nights and the drink helped me rationalize that a little female company, just at the club, mind you, couldn't hurt too much. Well, on the story goes, till one day I woke up to a marriage that was falling apart, kids that were becoming distant, health that was slowly becoming less stable, and even almost imperceptibly a lessening of respect by my colleagues. I was missing important votes, not showing up at the office when I was supposed to. At some point I was informed of a nonpartisan group composed mostly of congressmen who got together for fellowship and prayer. A number of my colleagues were a part of it, and most said that at least it helped to get away from the hill and not have to worry about work. I couldn't understand how this could be if both sides of the aisle were represented, but I had started realizing my life was falling apart and figured one try couldn't hurt. When I went, I found no politicking, no backbiting, and found that it seemed to be a safe place. All the guys there seemed to open up to each other, and it seemed that all of them had had some kind of trouble that they weren't exactly proud of. I had gone several times but really hadn't begun to change my ways, although I had started to feel some hope for myself, when I met an older man with a long gray beard. This guy was rather eccentric, but I soon found out that he must be one of God's special people. He seemed to have nothing to do with politics or the hill, but was very comfortable in our presence and was very interested in our problems and seemed to be able to give very helpful insight and counsel. As he got to know me and my situation a little better, and he seemed to just draw it out of me, it wasn't long till he told me I needed to get away from here for a little while and invited me to come and spend a month with him at his property. He did warn me that I would find his place rather unusual. While I was used to being wined and dined and taken on trips by lobbyists, I normally wouldn't have accepted an invitation of this nature so quickly from someone I didn't know very well. But there was just something about Kermis that I knew it was a genuine offer, and something inside told me not only that I needed to do this, but that I should. There was a break in our schedule coming up, so I arranged to take a little extra time off. At that point, my family was happy to get rid of me for a while. I know you've already heard that Kermis lived in a very unusual but very nicely done setting. It was perfect, though very unique, for getting away from that rat race of my life, and proved to be just what I needed to get myself straightened out. Sleeping in an underground home, visiting in a treehouse living room, fishing in a little creek, walking all around the property, meeting young David, he said he was too old to be called Davy anymore, and having what amounted to life-changing therapeutic conversations with Kermis. God must have set this up. One day Kermis had to be gone for most of the day, so he asked David to take me fishing. Sitting out by the creek, far away from the rest of the world, and leaning back on the grass, I saw some eagles flying way above us. Just letting my mind wander, I was thinking about reasons why the eagle was a good symbol for our country, how they fly so high, above everything, how majestic looking they are, how their perspective from so high must be so different from ours. Then I heard little David singing a song about mounting up with wings like eagles, and I realized I was having a rare chance to get above everything, see things from a different perspective, get my bearings again, and become a real leader again. Honor, integrity, nobility, strength, statesmanship. Ah, what a feeling. I could be proud of myself again. But I started thinking how I'd let my character ebb away, how difficult it would be to change, that I doubted I'd ever be that kind of man again. Sadness creeping.